Danny Jansen has made some history in the MLB. Plus, what do we do with Davis Schneider and Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? There's been some tweets being thrown around. Where does he rank in the AL? How good is he? We'll talk about it on today's episode.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. I'm Braden Wasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Wasco, Carter First too, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. Plus, if you haven't already, we noticed a lot of you guys aren't subscribed here on YouTube, so do that. Drop the sub. Helps us out. Puts us at the top of your guys' page so you're always knowing when we're posting a video. Plus, there's a little bell icon on YouTube that you can hit where it notifies you if a short goes live or we go live or a video post, anything like that. Press that if you guys want to as well. We have a ton to get into. We don't want to make this like an hour and 45 minutes, but in the same respect, there's an absolute ton to get into today. First of all, Danny Jansen makes history. We're going to talk about that because what a day just for the MLB as a whole, sort of a cool statistic thing. Then I think a big talker in what to do with Davis Schneider. I mean, the guy is just not doing it. He is just not doing it, to say the very least. And a little piece on, is Vladimir Guerrero a top 3 player in the AL? We're going to answer all these questions today. But Carter, my man, it's a Tuesday. 6-game winning streak for the Toronto Blue Jays. How do you feel?
This last 5 days of baseball, or these just last 5 days, just been amazing. You sweep the Boston Red Sox. You absolutely love to see that. Obviously, history made. You see the Danny Jansen narrative pretty much anywhere you look at. If you're looking at anywhere, just in regards with the MLB, not even just necessarily the Blue Jays. That's been being shoved down our throats. It is cool. Obviously, the first time that's ever happened. It's a unique, cool thing. But yeah, when you hear it a million times in a day, kind of over it from there. But other than that, the playoff push was coming in. It's going to be 8 games out of the wild card spot. Who knows? You got the Minnesota Twins coming up. Realistically, this is such a big mountain to climb. The Blue Jays, they have 29 games left. We were kind of talking numbers off air just to see if this was even a relevant conversation. Probably still isn't, but I figured I'd just throw it out there. The Blue Jays go like 22-7, which is, you're asking for a whole lot, especially with this bullpen. Maybe they do have a chance. That Minnesota Twins series will be big. They got the Braves, you got the Phillies. Still a very tough schedule with a horrible bullpen. We'll see, but it's fun to have hope. It's fun to at least think that we might have some meaningful baseball coming down the stretch. But these young stars have been showing out these last 5 days. It's been fun to watch.
It really has been. And I mean, I never want to become that fan that, starts to sort of grasp at straws for a big, push at the end of the season because they start to play a decent brand of baseball. But, it always gives you a little bit of hope. A little statistic here that I wanted to share because I found it pretty interesting. So this is since the All-Star break, the Blue Jays are 5th in weighted runs created plus. Again, take it with a grain of salt because it probably won't matter. And most likely what this Toronto Blue Jays team is going to do, they're going to go and win a bunch of games and then end up being like 2 to 3 games short of the wild card and just break all of our hearts. That's just what is probably going to happen if I was to bet money on it. It's just how this season has gone. And I don't think they deserve it. I really don't. They've played some great baseball as of late, but I don't think after the start to this season that they had and the ups and a lot of downs, mostly downs, I don't necessarily, but I believe that they deserve to be in the playoffs. But it is fun to watch. It's better baseball. It's interesting baseball. It's awesome to see that the Blue Jays are putting together wins. To be fair, the Boston Red Sox aren't the best baseball team as of right now, so that adds to it as well. Coming off, the Angels, who are second worst in the entire MLB, going to the Red Sox, who are struggling right now. That's what I mean. Take it with a grain of salt. Yes, it's great to see them win, but at the end of the day, these teams aren't the best teams in the MLB.
No, definitely not at all. You look at the Boston Red Sox pitching over the last little bit, pretty much just after the All-Star break. Cutter Crawford just completely dropped off. Nick Pivetta, again, had a good game against the Toronto Blue Jays, but has not been good for that baseball team. It was a little bit of a Cinderella run. A lot of teams, a lot of people, I should say, had the Boston Red Sox at the bottom of their standings rankings. I, for one, had that as well. But they definitely outperformed my expectations. But is this team, like, unbelievable? Are they playing out of this world? Fun team to watch with Jaron Duran, players like that. Red Schneider's having a good year. Obviously, they have Rafi Devers, players like that. They do have some interesting pieces on this team. But overall, like, you look at some of these powerhouses in the AL, the Houston Astros kind of playing back to their brand of baseball. The Cleveland Guardians and Kansas City Royals is going to be an interesting battle down the stretch. And obviously, you got the New York Yankees, Baltimore Orioles, and the Toronto Blue Jays, the hottest team in baseball. So you really got to match up these juggernauts that we listed here. And do the Red Sox necessarily match up? I'm going to say no. So obviously, they've been struggling a lot. The Toronto Blue Jays can win a couple more games in this series. They can actually jump the Boston Red Sox, or at least be very close. I don't think it's actually quite the jump, but and again, Toronto Blue Jays, 3 games below 500. See what happens. It's fun to have hope. Am I delusional? Probably at this point. But again, I'd rather be positive about my baseball team than just be down in the dumps and hate every single minute I'm watching Toronto Blue Jays baseball.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's only so much negativity that our small, feeble brains can take before we're like, all right, we're over it. Let's, just have some fun watching baseball. And that's what we've been doing, and it has been fun. Moving into sort of the Danny Jansen history of it all. So Danny Jansen made history as the first major league player to play for both teams in the same game. He was the Toronto Blue Jays catcher June 26th when the game was halted with Jansen about to bat. In the second inning, the backup catcher was traded to Boston on July 27th, and he was behind the plate when the game resumed yesterday. So sort of crazy. He actually was not the only player to play in the same game, but to start an at-bat and then catch in the same at-bat. So cool history from Danny. Again, what does it mean? Not a whole lot. It's I think the Red Sox manager, Alex Cora, sort of said it, I think, perfectly. I'll sort of read the quote here from him. It was a very cool moment just to be a part of it. I don't know if it's going to happen again. It has to be kind of the perfect storm for that to happen. Starting with the storm, and I'm glad that everyone enjoyed it. And that's sort of where this all comes about, is that it's some sort of a history moment statistic that somebody will bring up 30 years down the line and be like, hey, do you remember that one catcher that was able to play for both teams? And it'll be like in some trivia at some point, most likely. And it's cool as fans of the Toronto Blue Jays, the guy that we had, to go through this. But at the end of the day, this means a whole lot of nothing, I guess. To Danny Jansen, probably a cool moment to have his name scratched in the record history books, I should say, not record books. But besides that, Carter, do you care really at all?
Well, I mean, you got to feel bad for Danny Jansen. He was on the winning team, and then a 2-month battle, gets traded, and then he's on the losing team. You play a 2-month baseball game, you can't even get a win. So can't imagine how he's feeling over there. But no, it doesn't really matter to me. Cool moment. I think it's just I'm at the point where I've seen it so many times and heard so many people talk about it that I'm just kind of over it. Like, it's just been overplayed for me in this very short amount of time. That anywhere I go, it's on social media. It's just like, oh, do you know Danny Jansen's making history? Yeah, it's again awesome, great to see. I love Jano, nothing against the guy, but it's whatever. It is what it is. I'm not going to complain too much about it. But congrats to Jano. Just an interesting way that it happened. He was the last guy in his at bat. Then Dalton Varsho takes over. If Jano would have had 2 strikes and then Dalton Varsho strike out, that would have been Jano's strikeout, but that does go in the history books as Dalton Varsho. Another interesting thing about this game is that Will Wagner and Leo Jimenez were playing in this game. They would have got hits in this game. They would have got hits before their technical debut in the record books. I guess June 22nd or 26th is their MLB debut. So it's just weird. You have June 26th, I think, when the game was, and then obviously now we're at August 26th. So a little bit of a blast in the past. You look at Joey Lopervito, that guy was still on the Houston Astros at that time. So there's a bunch of different weird tweaks and things that can go about this that if you really look into it, but something that doesn't really happen. So it's just fun to see unique things in the Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. And you know what? That's why baseball is such a different sport, right? There's little things like this that can happen, and you don't see it anywhere else. And I think that's part of the reason that you have the love for the game. It's these little quirks and these little fun things that baseball has. And yeah, it was a blast. It was a fun day of baseball. I went to work and the game started. So I pretty much just watched baseball all night at work. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that in case people are, watching, but at the end of the day, there's the TV's on. I'm sitting there just watching Blue Jays baseball. It's tough for me to take my eyes off it. I was producing the sports show today, and Christian O'Malley, who hosts the sports show, says, I just look over once in a while at the booth and I see Braden just shaking his head. And it was right when Jose Berrios gave up the home run. And I shook my head. I'm like, Jose Berrios can't go start without just giving up a home run. It's just not in his, and whatever. He sees me shake my head. He makes a comment about it. And it's just fun. It's a fun time of year. I think we get to this point and the Blue Jays aren't doing well. And I think it just shows for the fans. I think that if they're still paying attention and they're still around, it just shows how much they love the game and love their team. And that's nice to see. I mean, everybody in the office, got a bunch of Blue Jays fans obviously here. So it's just a blast to just keep chatting baseball, even when it doesn't really matter.
Hey, who knows? Like I said, if you could be a little bit hopeful, a little bit delusional, maybe the Toronto Blue Jays get back to 500 after the series against the Boston Red Sox. One can hope. Again, we're going to be in this middle spot, like you said, where the Toronto Blue Jays aren't going to be good enough to necessarily get back in the playoffs, but they're going to be good enough to get close or farther and farther out of that contention for that first overall pick in the MLB draft. But it will be nice to see the Blue Jays go on a little streak. I think it will give you some more hope for the rest of the season rather than if the Toronto Blue Jays went like 10-30 to finish the season. So again, there are some positives about this. If you're getting wins, that means something is going right for your baseball team. They're building confidence. They're getting chemistry with the pitching working out and the offense being actually a very good offense, as I want to get into in the second segment. Been one of the better offenses in the league since the All-Star break, which is something that we were complaining about very early on in the season. So that turnaround is very big for this Toronto Blue Jays team as well. But let's just see if they can continue it. Just play some fun baseball. Just looking back at this roster in opening day, just having to watch guys like Kevin Kiermaier, Justin Turner, IKF falling off a little bit, still having good at bats, but not living up to that 292 like the 750 OPS he was putting up, which was expected. But it's so much more fun to watch guys that have a future and have potential rather than 36-year-old Kevin Kiermaier and 39-year-old Justin Turner that are pretty much just old men in this league at this point. So it's a different brand of Blue Jays baseball, and I can't say that I haven't been enjoying it.
No, dude, I'm with you. It has been fun, and I know even me and you, like there was a point in the season where we stopped having those little conversations outside the podcast about baseball, and now we get home and that's the first thing we talk about again. So it's bringing a little bit of excitement back into our off podcast talks, which is nice as well. We're going to take a quick break. We got still a ton to get into. We actually might not get to everything today. I know there's so much. I teased the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. stuff, but that can be sort of taken over to tomorrow because it sort of is a bigger conversation around a bunch of players within the league. So we might push that to tomorrow and just continue on because I do want to still talk about Davis Schneider, about how good this offense has been as well. So we'll take a quick break. We got to hammer Davis Schneider. I feel so bad, but we got to talk about it. So take a quick break. Be right back with all that. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. As always, we are huge fans of FanDuel because it's perfect. It helps me make a little bit of money or lose a little bit of money, depending, how good you are at betting. For myself, I'm just constantly up and down. As soon as I just got to use their same game live parlays, and that's the only way that I can succeed. I try to make my own like an idiot, and then it just never goes well. And you've heard us talk about FanDuel so much. They're America's #1 sports book. And we have something a little bit different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Make sure you guys check out FanDuel. It is an unbelievable deal here with that free trial, and especially with football coming up, we're going to be taking full advantage, so we hope you guys are as well. So, Carter, something I don't want to talk about, but I feel like we do, and I'm going to start it here. We can get into how good the offense has been. But I think something that's been on everybody's mind here is Davis Schneider. What to do with him? What are your feelings around him? And this is what we're asking you guys. How do you guys feel about Davis Schneider right now? Because I scroll through Twitter, and as I do, I'm on there constantly. Even if I'm not tweeting necessarily, I'm checking everything out, seeing some replies and whatnot. And I go on and, my feed is just Blue Jays, and that's it pretty much. So I go and look, and there's I guess a search thing for Davis Schneider that pops up. And so I'm like, okay, I'll check this out today. And I go, and it's like the first tweet you see is bashing him. He's terrible. I don't want to talk. I don't want to hear about Davis Schneider, blah, blah, blah. And then the second one's, we still love Davis Schneider. We're going to ride with him. He's going to figure it out. Then there's another tweet that's saying he should be sent down to the minors. What is this team doing? He needs to go figure something out and then hopefully come back better than ever. And I think I'm sort of on the third one there, Carter, myself. I think you got to send him down. I don't think it's helping him to just keep throwing him out into major league games and have him striking out and not looking confident at the plate. I think he needs to go back to Buffalo and try to work on some things and really figure it out. That's where he started his success before he came into the majors. He was raking and doing so well in AAA. Maybe that's what he needs to go back to here and just try to work on some things, work through the problems, get the confidence back. But I do also understand it from the other two perspectives as well. There's some people saying that Davis Schneider is sort of a lost cause, and he's young, but he doesn't have that potential. And obviously, I mean, you can tell this way, I guess. I'm not one of those believers because I got two jerseys of him sitting right there. But I understand the sentiment, right? You see a guy with what you think is such a high ceiling and so much potential, and then for him to crash and burn, and this is sort of his second time crashing and burning here, Carter, right? At the end of last season, he sort of did the same thing. So is it an off-season adjustment that needs to happen? And then I look at the other side, right? Like I said, I follow his sisters on Twitter as well. They put out some really fun content just around sort of being families of an MLB player and everything like that. And I do feel bad too, because I don't want to bash him. He's my favorite player on the team. I still want him to do well. And they probably feel the same way as I do, probably, well, more so than I do, but in the sense that they want him to do well. They want him to get back to it. And I just don't feel, we talked about them getting the hate on Twitter. And I know Johnny Junta from Gate 14, people are sort of going at him for, praying that Davis Schneider does well and trying to hype him up. And I know that they're sort of buddies as well. So I don't know. I think a lot of this hate towards the Davis Schneider and sort of everybody involved in that situation is just a really bad look as a fan base. I think if you're like me, you say, send him down to the minors, let him figure it out, stuff like that. And it's a little bit of not positive. It's not positive, but it's giving a help or a solution. And you're not just saying BS out of your mouth to say it. And that's sort of what some of the fans are doing. How do you feel about this whole situation with Davis Schneider?
Yeah, you kind of unloaded a lot there. Obviously, pretty emotional about your favorite player. But I'm just going to start at his performances. Just obviously, you look at last season, unbelievable start. He has an over 1,000 OPS, very small sample size, 30-ish games. You go into this season, he had a pretty good first 2 months, and then something happened. I think teams figure out how to pitch against him, and that was the high fastball. We've gone over that multiple times on this podcast. People that saying Davis Schneider is just done. He's a lost cause. I'm going to relate this to a guy that just won AL Player of the Week, and that is Bowden Francis. Look at Bowden Francis. You look at him at the start of the season. He had like a 7.5 ERA. Did not look good. Was hanging pitches over the middle. The commander's not there. Walking a ton of guys. Gets sent back down to the minors. He works there, figures his stuff out, is playing every single day, is actually lugging innings, getting his playing time in, starts figuring out in AAA, comes up to major leagues, gets a little better, and then explodes in the month of August and has been ridiculous over this month. So you look at a guy like Davis Schneider. This guy's 25 years old. Bowden Francis, I believe, is 27 years old. This guy's still young. He's a young guy on this team that's had he still had less than 1 year of experience in the major leagues. Look at guys like Joey Lopervito, Addison Barger. Joey Lopervito, when he joined the Blue Jays, was hitting like 120, had no hits, just was swinging at junk. I think he had a 50% strikeout rate at one point, and now you look at him, he's hitting doubles, he's hitting home runs. These prospects are going to go through ups and downs. They're not going to be steady 280 hitters for their entire careers, especially at the start. You look at Spencer Horwitz. He was hitting like 330. Now hasn't been amazing of recently, but he's still been serviceable, still been a very good player. These guys are going to go up and down. They're going to have experience to gain at the end of the season. Getting them playing time, getting them used to the MLB reps is going to be huge for their development, huge for their confidence going through. It's got to give these guys time. It's not all going to come together all at once. And especially with the hate going towards the family members, that is absolutely ridiculous. There's no need for that at all. From this fan base. I get people are emotional about the Blue Jays, so are we, but there's no need to spread hate, especially to a sister of a guy in the MLB. Like, if your family member was in the MLB, you're obviously going to back him up. You're not going to be like, oh, he sucks. I wish a death on this guy. I don't want him to have a good MLB career. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. So, like, with Davis Schneider, just hold out with him, have a little bit of patience. But for me, I know you said, what should we do with Davis Schneider? How is he going to fix this? He's got to play in AAA. He's not playing enough. He's playing maybe once every third game. That's not going to help anyone, especially when they're slumping. And I'm not going to go into a ton of stats with Davis Schneider because, as we've seen, he's just not very good. But post All-Star break, he's hitting 120, has an OPS of 362. That pretty much describes everything that's going on with Davis Schneider. Striking out a whole lot. Just needs to play better, needs to reset, getting that confidence back. Let him ride out AAA. Next spring training is a new spring training. If he still has the stuff, he can battle it out there. Start the MLB team. That gives him a chance to reset, have an offseason, and come back stronger, and hopefully return to his regular form.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at too, right? Getting to the end of the show, as much as we want to talk about it, there isn't a lot moving forward in this of making the playoffs and making a deep push. So your mind has to be, okay, how do we move forward to next year? And I think for Davis Schneider, the answer is you go play in AAA, you figure it out, you have time to figure it out. And then the offseason, you really put in the work. You try to gain that confidence, like I talked about. And then you go into spring training, and hopefully you're back to where you need to be. And that's what looks like he needs to do. So there's a lot more I could say. I mean, again, it's sort of one of those things that anytime a player is getting hate online for just not playing as well as they should, I'm usually okay with you directing it at the player. Usually they're probably not looking at it anyway. But when it's the family members or the, whatever, their friends and stuff like that, it's like, come on, what are we doing here? Like, what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to go say, hey, you're not playing very well. Maybe you should figure it out. I'm getting a lot of people yelling at me on Twitter. Like, I don't think that's helping anything. I know me and you talk about this all the time too, but just a tough scenario all over the map for this guy.
Do you really think Davis Schneider does not know that he's not playing well? Do you think he's just lollygagging out there being like, oh, yeah, this is okay. I love having a 350 OPS through a long stretch of time. No, he's not happy about it. You can see when he's at the plate, he just doesn't look confident. He strikes out. He just looks like the saddest human being of all time. He's not having a good time out there. You looked at Bo Bichette when he was struggling as well. These guys don't enjoy having struggling stretches, being bad at baseball for a significant period of time. Sometimes their at-bats just don't go their way. Baseball's such a mental game. It's such a streaky game. You look at Vlad at the start of the year. You look at where he is now. Obviously, you look at that stretch where he was hitting like 1 million, had an OPS of 500 million, just absolutely insane stuff. Just happens to players. It is what it is, especially with these younger guys. You got to give them time. You got to give them time to develop. And yeah, just no need to send anyone death comments ever, no matter what the situation is, even if it's the World Series and something bad happens. I know it's tough to rein your emotions in sometimes, but especially the family members, it's not something you want to be doing on social media.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to put this out there as well, because this is going to come off like we're Davis Schneider fanboys, which he's my favorite player on the team. I'm first one to say that. But I also want to hold the people accountable for what's going on here. Why is Davis Schneider still playing with this major league team? He has not been doing well. He should have been sent down a while ago. And I can't go through this and not say something like that, like in some criticism here. Like, I don't know who's pulling the decision and keeping him with the major league team. I know that all of his buddies are there now and whatever, but this is a guy's career here. And if he needs to go figure it out in AAA, then you have to send him there. I don't care that Ernie Clement and Horwitz are there. I don't care that he's probably got a place in Toronto now. If you're not playing up to the standard, you're going to be sent down, and you've got to go figure it out. So as much as I love Davis Schneider, you're not getting it done. So you got to go and figure it out. You got to take the time. You got to put in the work. And I believe he will and can do that, but he needs to be sent down.
And I believe he's going to get sent down when Bo Bichette is ready to go with the Major League team again. He's already resumed baseball activities. So that gives Joey Lopervito, Stuart Baroa, who actually had a big walk in one of today's games, as we'll try to get into. Obviously, we're trying to keep the episodes a little bit shorter, but we've had it jam-packed with so much news that we get talking. I feel like we're talking about important things, some pretty good topics here. So if we go a little bit longer, definitely not going to complain too much. Again, you can let us know whether you like the longer or shorter episodes better. But anyway, going back into Davis Schneider and Bo Bichette, I think that's when the move's going to happen. It's sounding like Bo Bichette will be playing at some point in the season. So it just makes sense with Davis Schneider, a guy that is just probably going to hit 3 in the AAA system. And then you get Bo Bichette playing in the infield. Again, if Bo Bichette comes back, and you kept Davis Schneider up, that even limits his at-bats even more. So you're not liking Davis Schneider sitting on the bench and playing, again, 1 every 3 days. If that, you want this guy to be playing, you want him to get his confidence back. That is definitely going to be the best way to get this guy back to his at least average standard. Because right now, it's not good. It's flat out not good. Like, we got to hold guys accountable. Davis Schneider's probably been one of the worst Blue Jays since the All-Star break. It's flat out. But he knows that he's not playing good baseball. He's still, I would say, a prospect. Again, hasn't even played 162 games yet in his MLB career. Give it time. These players go through streaks like this all the time. So he'll eventually figure it out, and hopefully we'll get the Davis Schneider pimping home runs at Fenway Park like we have been accustomed to. But other than that, with Davis Schneider, you got anything else to add, or you want to just kind of move on to some of the game stuff? Just some quick, maybe we get over the highlights quickly here in this segment, or if you want to send it off, I'll just throw it over to you, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I think let's take a quick break. Then we'll sort of get into what these two games were. There was just a lot. I'll get into it, but I sort of felt like these two games sort of just blended into each other. I felt like I was watching baseball all day, and I was just watching 17 innings or whatever it was, 16 innings, because it just felt like a long day of baseball, and it was fun to watch. I was having a good time, but yeah, a lot to get into. So I think let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Before we take that break, I did want to mention to you guys, we know we appreciate you guys making us your first listen every day, but if you want to find more baseball news, more baseball content, go check out Locked On MLB. Host Paul Sullivan. Sully is our boy. He does a fantastic job running that podcast, keeps everyone up to date on all the big storylines going on in the MLB. So you can go check out that Locked On MLB, wherever you listen to podcasts, or on here on YouTube as well. Take a quick break. Be right back with sort of the highlights of today or of yesterday's games, and what to look forward to in the rest of this Red Sox series.
Get supplies from the site that's made for skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the most reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can help you get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. So you can join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from the free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com.
Jeez, Carter. Sorry, I feel like I went a little bit off on old Schneids there a little bit and off on everybody, but the Twitter was crazy. I can't believe that Davis Schneider, it was a bad performance. The two games yesterday, Carter, just not the best day in general for Davis Schneider. Sort of that just, I don't want to pile on him, but it was tough to watch, dude. Like, his at-bats were just straight horrible, and it pains me so much to say that, but it was tough.
To be fair, though, you look at what the Blue Jays love and adore. It's the defense. Davis Schneider played pretty good defense in that second game. I think you said you saw something that there was a 10% probability or lower on, I think, 3 of the catches that he made. A lot of long line drives, a lot of hard hit balls at him. Judged him very well, made a couple jumping catches. He's adjusted very well to that left field position. So if he can figure out the bat, again, I don't expect him to hit 290, but if he can be a 15 to 20 home run guy, hit somewhere 240, 250, walk, get on base, that's going to be a guy that can be productive for you at the bottom of the order, maybe as an everyday player, but even if he's a bench bat, definitely not going to complain from Davis Schneider. So that's just a little bit more of a positive spin zone. We're going to have to see. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe Davis Schneider is completely out of it. But again, why would you want to trade on your own? Why would you want to prey on your own players' downfalls? It doesn't make any sense to me. I think Davis Schneider will figure it out. Maybe, again, he's not going to hit 300 and have 45 home runs, but he can definitely still be a serviceable MLB player.
Yeah, I think it would be different, right? If we're talking about 29-year-old, 30-year-old Davis Schneider, and this is what's happening, then the conversation's different. But there's still a lot of time, a lot of years for this guy to figure it out. Like you said, hasn't even played 162 games yet. There is a lot of room for this guy to make a comeback here. But Carter, just going over some of the games today, I mean, let's start with the first game. Anything that really stood out to you from this first game here yesterday?
Just the Ryan Yarborough masterclass. This guy just continues to eat up innings for the Toronto Blue Jays. Ryan Burr looked good in the first inning as well. That's limiting the Boston Red Sox to obviously 1 run in the first game and then 3 in the second. Well, 4 runs over 2 games. It's definitely going to play for your baseball team. In this one, George Springer moonball, absolutely unbelievable. Hitting that one over the monster, you'll love to see it. You'll love to see George Springer just smacking the baseball around the park. Then Vladimir Guerrero Jr., huge double as well. So your veterans are getting it done. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., just obviously the veterans a little bit different facets here. Vladdy's being 25, George Springer being 100. So there's a little bit of an age gap there, but you love to see these guys that have been on the Blue Jays for a while getting it done. And just a huge win for the Blue Jays. What a day to just have 2 games on. The Toronto Blue Jays playing good baseball. You're getting good pitching from everyone. Everything's going well. You just get 6 hours of enjoyable baseball to watch. Can't really beat it.
Okay, I have one gripe with game 1, okay? And this is going to be ridiculous. This is a ridiculous topic, but I had to bring it up because I thought it was just so funny. Zach Pop gets the win, pitching a third of an inning, Carter. A third of an inning. Zach Pop, 1 and 2 on the season, gets the win. Just a ridiculous statistic. Like, that's when we talk about that the wins and the losses actually they don't matter whatsoever. There's one for you to prove our point completely. And actually, what's hilarious is we talked with Sully, Paul Sullivan, host of Locked On MLB, for like 20 minutes post podcast that we did with him, just about the wins and the loss statistics. And it's just hilarious. It just made me think about that right away.
Yeah, check out Sully for after your first listen. That'll be your second listen, obviously, on Locked On MLB. He's got some good content for you over there. But yeah, Zach Pop, that was the best sinker I've ever seen. That's why I got the win. Just you'll love to see it. Congratulations to Zach Pop for your first win on the season. Well deserved. You should probably be jersey in the rafters, I think, right beside that wild card banner that they still have up there. But other than that, again, you're taking a 4-1 game against the Boston Red Sox. You have a million, I was looking at the scores and stuff like that just to kind of get like player stat lines and things. And there's just a million players on this team. Like, just because obviously that 1 inning was played, not a ton happened. Obviously the game was 0-0 going into the second inning. Obviously the channel stuff is interesting, but looking at the order, I got both of them on separate here. So it was June 26th. So actually a month, 2 months away from each other, which is to the day, which is pretty cool. But you look at the guys that are playing. Horwitz was playing both games. Vladdy was playing in both games. Springer, Schneider was playing in both games. And that is it. So you get 4. You got 4 guys. Obviously the order is way different now. Yeah, you got a lot more young guys. You got a lot quicker as well. Like, just looking at some of the guys scoring in today's games. Ernie Clent's flying around the bases. You got Joey Lopervito, who just rips as well. George Springer. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he looks like it's weird to watch him run because it looks like he's flying, but he's actually not going that fast. But it's not slow, but it's definitely fun to watch him glide, especially when he had the dreads when those were flown in the air. Now it's obviously a little bit different with his haircut. But just looking at these games, it was fun. It's been fun to watch the last 5 games of 5 days of baseball, especially when you're beating up on the Boston Red Sox. I definitely cannot complain about the outcomes, especially with the start that Jose Berrios gave you. As we'll go into the second game here, obviously a 7-3 victory. You love, again. It's insane that some games we were just so low. Here, I'm not going to say I'm on top of the moon, but it's I haven't hated watching Toronto Blue Jays baseball. It's been enjoyable. So. Hopefully they can sweep the Boston Red Sox, maybe make it a little bit of a 9-game stretch here where the Blue Jays are on a winning streak. Obviously, this is 6 games, the highest one of the year. So congrats to the Blue Jays on this massive winning streak. Let's continue it.
Yeah, and that's sort of something that blew me away was when you're looking at the longest winning streak of the season at 6 games after, you beat up on the Angels a little bit. And then, to take it to the Red Sox, I think is just a little bit of the cherry on top for me. The Red Sox and the Yankees are the 2 teams that I just never want to see do well. And I know that there's a lot of Red Sox fans, even in Canada. There's lots of them. And we have some friends that are Red Sox fans, which just pains me to say. I probably won't be friends with them for long. But overall, I mean, it's just a lot of fun. And I think if the Blue Jays can get back to 500, I think I feel a little bit better about how this season ends. And maybe, again, I don't want to say gives me hope for next season because I don't think that this is going to be sustainable. I think that there still has to be a lot of moves done in the offseason to make this team a winning team or a successful team. But I think it makes me feel better. I think it just doesn't make me want to watch depressing baseball at the end of the day. That's about as much as I can say on the 6-game winning streak. It is fun. It is great. My biggest thing now is how far can they take this? If they can continue to roll through the Red Sox and then into a couple more series, picking up series wins, I mean, it's going to be at least a fun end to the season.
See, a little part of me, a big part of me wants the Toronto Blue Jays to be in the playoffs so bad. That delusional side of me. But just take a step back. Like, again, the expectations there. It's fun to hope about your baseball team, but this team is very far back. They played the Los Angeles Angels 4 times and the Boston Red Sox that have been struggling immensely 2 times. Again, I said to you, I can't remember if I said it on the podcast or off camera, so I'll bring it up again. If the Blue Jays can win the next 2 out of 3 games and then sweep the Minnesota Twins, I'm going to say I'm backing on the Toronto Blue Jays. The playoffs are coming. We're coming back in for 2024. Again, you play some actual talent. Again, not going to disrespect the Red Sox too much, but the Angels are just one of the worst baseball teams I've seen in a very long time. It's obviously fun playing them, but you don't have the competition that you would be playing in the playoffs, even the teams in the wild card hunt. Obviously, the Angels, I guess the Red Sox are still there, but again, not playing their greatest brand of baseball. One thing I did like about this game is that obviously Jaron Duran hits a home run. I believe it was in the 8th inning, and the Blue Jays show some resiliency. They scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th. There we go. And as from help from the Boston Red Sox defense, which I'm surprised we haven't brought up yet. 6 errors in 2 games, and that's not counting like the a million bobbles that they had. Some of the misplays, just dropping the ball left and right and center. I don't know how this Red Sox team, it actually looks worse than our beer league slow pitch team playing defense, which is hard to believe with some of the errors that we had as well. Just, it looked like again, little league teams have better defense than this. They have the most errors on the season. Didn't necessarily see it in a lot of the series that we played the Red Sox before in, but in these last 2 games, you could definitely tell why this team has the most errors in the league.
Oh yeah, it was sort of frustrating to watch. Like I'm a Blue Jays fan, but seeing all these errors, I'm like, guys, like come on, like figure it out. And I don't know. I get frustrated when it's. I don't like watching wins when it's the other teams sort of shooting themselves in the foot. Like I want to see wins where the Blue Jays are taking it to them. These 2 games did feel a little bit like the Red Sox were just shooting themselves in the foot, and with the errors, I mean, it shows. Carter, I did want to bring this up before I forget. I'm off to Minnesota this weekend to watch 2 of the 3 games. I have to come back on the Sunday, so won't be out for that one, but I will be there for the first 2 games. I'll try to make some TikToks from down there, some content, so YouTube Shorts. So if you guys are watching anywhere, make sure you guys stay tuned for those. It should be fun. Tons of people from Manitoba. We live very close to Minnesota. Pretty quick drives. Not a quick drive, but it's an easy drive to go down there. So there should be a lot of people out there. I know a bunch of people from work are going too. So it should be a blast. I'm really excited. I'm happy that the Blue Jays are playing good baseball, at least for me to go watch. And it's not like it was in, April or May. And when we went down to Toronto, that was, I guess we went down for an okay series to watch. It was a little bit interesting, but I mean, man, it could have been way worse me going to Minneapolis right now.
Yeah, well, I was going to make the trip down with you, but then I saw just how bad of a brand the Toronto Blue Jays were playing, and I just didn't want to waste my time. But luckily for you, they've picking it up a little bit here. Hopefully, they can continue that, and they won't be on fraud watch. They might be on a lot of people's fraud watch list right now, and I can't say that I'd blame them. But again, hopefully, that's since you're in the presence of the Blue Jays, hopefully they can get at least a couple wins from you. When we were in Toronto, we got the Daniel Vogelbach legacy game at least, so
that's true.
That was kind of cool. But I just want to go back the last thing here. I'll get into the offensive stuff tomorrow, obviously. Again, typical Locked On Blue Jays podcast. We have plans and we overshoot them by a significant amount of time. But with the team shooting themselves in the foot, I can, I guess, sort of agree with that. Like if it's like an NL team, like a team I don't care about. But since it's an AL East team, the Boston Red Sox, I loved it. I loved every single second of it. The pitcher era, I can't remember who that was. I think it was something Kelly, some reliever. Obviously, he sucks. Just drop the ball. Just simply drop the ball. China did a Vladdy from earlier this year. Tristan Cassis there's another one, I think, at first base right through the glove.
That was
Red
terrible.
Schneider just missed one too. It was a circus act, especially in the bottom of that 8th inning. It was very, very funny to watch for me. Definitely not going to complain when the Boston errors, might as well call them that. The Boston Red Sox are making a million errors in the field. So that was obviously fun to watch. But let's continue to win. Let's continue to beat up on the Boston Red Sox. I think that was the year, was it 2022 when we won just every single game against the Boston Red Sox? Let's go back to that time. Let's continue this this domination that we're seeing here. But I just want to say thank you guys for watching. The likes, comments, subscriptions, everything has been appreciated. We have noticed again 68, 67 around there percent of you guys are not subscribed. So if you guys are tuning into the videos every single day, we appreciate that a ton, but it helps us a ton if you do subscribe, and it keeps our podcast at the top of your page. Also, Braden's working on the Discord. I think we're a couple days out of finishing that.
I did nothing today about it. It was like the last thing on my mind watching all the baseball. So it's coming along. Again, it's like overshooting everything. I'd say, yeah, it's going to be done by the end of the week. Now it's, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we'll be lucky if it's done before I go to Minneapolis.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe worst case, you just got to do it in the airport. Maybe figure it out for the weekend. The guys can, or just whoever's watching or is in that Discord can maybe ask you some questions about you at Target Field there in Minneapolis. That'll be obviously a good time for you. Just watching the Toronto Blue Jays continue to climb back in the playoff race in 2024.
Thanks for watching, guys. It's been a blast. We always have a bunch of fun on these episodes, and we'll continue to do so. I mean, it helps when the Blue Jays win baseball games, so we pray for more of that. Have a good rest of your guys' day. Hopefully, you can see the Toronto Blue Jays win another one.